Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. This is a podcast about the strange and unusual, the secret and conspiracies, the fringe and the supernatural. This is a show where we do little to no research on our topics. We are not professionals in any field, except speculation. This is the Secret Transmission Podcast. Welcome to episode 7, the moon landing episode. I am your host, Toby. Alongside with me are my lovely co-host,
Kristen,
Cade,
and DJ.
So this episode is about the moon landing. Is it fact or is it fiction? We have all done very minimal research to figure out a conclusion. So do you want me to give you some history first?
Let's hear it.
Apollo 11 was the first manned mission to land on the moon on July 20th, 1969. U.S. is the only country to land a man on the moon. A total of 12 men have actually walked on the moon, supposedly. That's 6 different landings. The first 2 were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, with Michael Collins staying in the ship as backup, I guess, because they only allowed 2 men to walk on the moon, and then 1 sat in the ship and watched.
I just gotta say, that's probably like a total buzzkill.
You know shit, right?
On the moon, and I don't get to get out of the ship.
That's like going to the candy store like with 3 friends, and you're like the guy that has to sit outside and just watch everyone eat the fucking
cool.
candy.
We're all gonna go to the movies. You sit out here and you watch the car.
Yeah.
Keep the car cool before we get back.
So, but that happened on 6 different occasions where someone would sit in the ship and be like, "Hey guys, I'll just keep the air conditioner on."
I'll just hang back here.
We're gonna watch the eclipse and you sit inside with the blinds closed and you tell us how it went.
I wonder how they decided. Like, you think they
Pick rock, paper, scissors.
That is how everything is solved. It's paper, rock, scissors, and alright, dude, sorry, 2 out of 3, you lost. Sit in the...
Me and her played paper,
My
rock, scissors on who had
slams
to drive
your
it away
scissors.
today. Oh, shit's funny.
So, okay, the popular belief with the skeptics is the moon landing was faked. It's all a hoax. Most people believe that it was filmed in a studio.
It was a backdrop.
There's a backdrop and everything.
Now, hold on. When you say most people, I would like to point out that approximately 20% of Americans, which is not most people.
I am a big, stern part of those 20 Americans.
Did you know that 98% of statistics are made up?
Awesome.
I feel like that one will be.
Did you know you made that up just now?
No, I didn't.
Um,
I read it on the internet.
One of the more popular beliefs is that Stanley Kubrick, a filmmaker, is the one that was behind most of it. And that because of his movie 2001 A Space Odyssey, he was the one that filmed all of the stuff in this sound studio for Apollo 11 and Apollo 12. So that's where the first conspiracy comes in, is that filmed it in a soundstage.
Okay, so now mine kind of ties into yours.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and say what I have to say about this. Growing up in school, we're all told the moon landing is definitely it. It happens. We all are fed it. So that's what I thought. Well, this is what I have read up on, and it says that the original recordings of first humans landing on the moon, which was 40 years ago, they were just happened to be, air quote, erased. Okay? And reused.
All the footage.
Just erased. But reused.
The high definition footage, we should add. It's
Well,
the high definition
not necessarily.
footage. Because everything
That's
that was
saw.
broadcast was recorded.
Right. That's
It's a
what they
copy
wanted.
of a
They
copy.
said when we recorded it, we didn't think about recording it to our own system because we wanted it to be live so that it would be definitely known what was going on.
Okay, hold on. Since you've brought up the recordings and everything.
Okay, we'll keep going because I have more.
What about, okay, this is what people start to speculate. First off, it's in a soundstage. Second, people mostly will point out that there's a time delay.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a 2-second time delay. Or
That
something
the
like that.
flag, if you were on the moon, does not wave, it would stand still.
Okay, so
Due to reasons of the gravity.
about this waving flag, what caused the flag to wave in the video they have of them planting the flag is the initial inertia of the astronaut himself placing the flag down. Because once it has motion, it continues to move until it eventually comes to a stop. It looked like it was waving because when he planted the flag, the moon having a sixth of the gravity of Earth, the inertia caused it to take longer to stop waving.
So it's waving in the spot that
Because
when
of
he
the anatomy
hung
of the
it.
moon.
Now, it is not waving. It will have eventually slowed to a stop.
Well,
But then, because of the anatomy of the moon, it kept
But
on
when he
waving.
planted it,
it's no longer standing. You know that, right? Supposedly, when
They stuck it down.
they stuck it, and when they lifted
When they
off
left
the
it,
moon,
like,
it
"Sorry,
got knocked
suckers."
over.
right. There are five that are standing, and there's one that is not standing.
They knocked it over when leaving.
That's what they say that he
Stupid.
I think it was, I don't remember who it was. It was one of the three, Buzz or someone. We'll say it was Neil.
If it touched the ground, did they burn that flag?
If it touches the moon's ground, do they burn it? Well, one of them says that as they were launching off the moon, they were watching it out the window and that it just
Sorry,
fell
sir.
over.
We're gonna have to
What a
torch
failure.
all
Buzzkill,
of
like
the
damn
moon.
it, we've already taken off.
That's funny because that's where Buzzkill came from. Because
Next time we
way.
come,
Buzz. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
I was like,
that's what it's gonna be like. It's gonna be like the next time we come, which is gonna be way past 2015. We'll definitely be back to burn this flag.
Well, see, that's not true. There were 6 Apollo missions, as Toby mentioned, and out of all 6 of them, they planted a flag every time.
I didn't know that.
There's only one that's.
But it
fallen
was
over.
from 1969 to 1974, right?
Right. There are.
We're
there-
in 2015.
There are 6 flags still standing on the face of the moon, even though they are no longer American flags. They
But-
are white flags, actually,
Why?
because
Really?
the extreme amount of ultraviolet radiation has, because the Earth is, the moon doesn't have an atmosphere.
Phaginal?
It has completely faded them to white.
Okay,
Can
so
you see
I
them
will
from a
say this
telescope?
though.
The Hubble Space Telescope actually took pictures of them about 7.5 months ago.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me finish saying what I have to say, and
You
then
have
I
nothing
will
to say.
tell you exactly what I feel about that. Okay, so whenever they said they were erased and reused, but newly restored copies of the original broadcast, they look even better. So they're saying they're pulling in a high-def movie makeover guy to redo the moon landing situation to make over for what was erased. But they're upset because they don't want to bring in a high Hollywood
Because it
guy.
costs so much money.
That and it will feud the conspiracy theorists because they're going to make them. Their
People would
theory
think-
will be real.
Because if you come in
If
to
you
try to
remake
correct
something,
it,
yes.
then that means you're obviously remaking it in a sound studio.
And the makeover is a complete digital makeover that is blurry and grainy images of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the surface of the moon.
I heard that it would also take away from any kind of sound quality that there was.
Exactly.
Which, I mean,
Now,
in
But
space, no
let
one
me
can hear you
finish.
scream.
Here we go. Let me finish my little area.
Aliens?
NASA admitted in 2006 that no one could find the original video recordings of the July 20th, 1969 landing. No recordings. So it was important
That's
enough
because it all got
to
recorded
lively
over.
broadcast, but it wasn't important enough to keep. I'm getting there. So to be said, the first ever moon landing just happened to be part of 200,000 tapes that were degaussed and magnetically erased to reuse to save money. So we're such a poor government. We were able to go to the moon,
But not keep
but
the
we
tapes.
had to diminish 200,000 tapes to reuse to save money.
now these are completely different times, though.
And exactly.
The space
but
race
we
was
should be
important.
more on technology side to where we could be able to use our.
I understand what you're saying. The space race was important in the fact that we had to beat the Russians to the moon. We had to have the ability. What it all boils
It was
down to
during
is
the Cold War.
the
We
ability
had
Beat
to
the Russians
drop.
to the moon or beat the Russians to the backdrop because
The goal
I
was the goal was to beat the Russians. The goal was to beat the Russians in the space race in order to be the first to be able to drop nuclear warheads from orbit. That's what the whole space race came from. Now, what it was is a completely different time period. In the 80s, NASA wasn't getting any funding at all. NASA still
But they
doesn't.
said that that's the only reason why they haven't gone back to the moon is because they haven't had that funding. That's what I sit there and I end up after everything. It said, and my question was, if it wasn't such a rare tape and NASA believed it would happen again and again, why has no one else landed except for robots here on out from 1974? And they say they haven't gone back due to they don't have the money to use that they used to, like you said, and the funding. And if they had the chance to go back, then they will go on the 2 ships which they are currently building, which are the Ares 1 and 5, and will make it capable to go to the moon for a long voyage and be able to go past the constellation, past Saturn, to get to Mars to find life on Mars. And that's what they want to do.
I feel like the fact that they went to the moon once with human people.
Human people.
Okay, you know what I mean?
As opposed
Wow.
to
Human.
non-human people.
Since-
Robot people
Okay.
or
They went to the
reptilian
moon
people?
once with humans.
Right.
I feel like maybe they're like, that's all we needed. We can put a robot up there and not have to screw with oxygen.
That's actually
Risk.
That's actually
Anything.
not what
Exactly, but in 1969 they were willing to risk 12 people's lives to
Yes.
zoom up
Because
there.
Because
Back then.
it was during the Cold War. It was
So
during
what?
proving
Pretend
a
we
point.
don't have the robots right now and just zoom
Morale.
up there to prove it to people, because all they see is we had a live broadcast, but we all know as soon as we're here making this podcast how easy it is to get in front of a green screen or even a backdrop and say, hey, we're on the moon.
Well, that's what I was trying to bring up earlier with the delay. It's okay. They had about a 2-second delay with Houston.
the
right?
live video for
The live.
But
the
it's
li-
come from a long way.
That's okay. When you watch those news reports from Afghanistan or from the other side of the world, you see the reporters standing there and they're like, "Hey Bob, how's the weather over there in Afghanistan?" And they sit there for a second with their hand to their ear, and
Wait
then
for the
and
feedback.
then it's like it's a good 5-6 seconds, and then they're like, "Good Bob, it's pretty sunny over here. The bombs are dropping."
Yeah.
But whatever. But there's a 5 or 6 second delay. You're telling me technology from 60s, 70s, 80s, early 80s.
Has not improved enough to drop us right back on the moon.
What I'm saying is that the delay would have been a 10-second delay.
See what I'm saying.
15
Okay,
second
now
delay.
this goes into the delay. The delay done by news companies is not a technology issue. They actually delay that on purpose.
So if something shitty happens.
So if something happens, something bad, something catastrophic, someone
Not
kills
needs to
themselves
be
on
on
TV,
TV.
they can edit that out in that
They can hit
5 to 10 second
They can hit
delay.
the kill button and
now,
go to
if the
blank
moon
string.
That's
landing
what-
was fake, when they let off from the NASA center, where they went, I have no clue. But they may have gone as far as freaking, 30 miles and landed in a cornfield of a farmer's that we don't even know about. And then they picked it back up, because if broadcasting was that big back then, they could stand, like you saying, from the backdrop. And the flag was already waving, and I get that it could possibly be because of
The inertia.
The inertia of the moon. But, I mean, none of us have ever been to the moon to say that's what it looks like.
Right. So
What if we go tomorrow and the
But
moon's
that's the thing.
purple?
But that's, but that's the thing. We haven't been to the
Nobody
moon,
knows.
and Buzz has, so he's the one that's gonna be like,
Because
yeah, that's what happens.
we're
when
all
you're on
in
the
our
moon.
20s
It's the
right now,
inertia.
and all we saw was the moon's white. He landed on there, right? Okay, so he landed. We have no clue if he really landed on there. We have no piece that came back with him. We have no nothing that came back with him. All we have is his word. That's it.
And video footage and flags that are still on the moon.
But do you know if they're still on the moon?
Yes.
Has anybody brought a flag back to the U.S.
Well,
or
if the-
anywhere to
if
say,
the-
this is a flag that was on the moon?
Well, I could walk in your house tomorrow with a flag and say, hey, this was the flag that was on the moon.
And I wouldn't believe you.
But you wouldn't believe me.
That's the skeptic in everyone. Let's take a small break, and we'll come back and continue our conversation. Okay, and we're back. So far on this moon landing episode, we have talked about the waving flag. DJ has brought up the inertia solution. We have talked about the missing data, where there has been videotapes recorded over, then they're just gone. All the first data that was recorded is gone. We have talked about the radio delay problem that a lot of skeptics believe it makes the moon landing false. So I want to bring up a point. What about the no crater impact? When the module came down to the moon's surface, the boosters did not create any kind of
Dust form or anything?
it didn't create any kind of ring to where it shows that there was a booster slowing it down as it came. Now this is a big skeptic point of view. So why wasn't there any kind of ring? Why didn't it slow it down? Since DJ's pretty strong on the defending that the moon landing is real, do you have anything to back up why there wasn't some kind of ring?
Yes.
Why?
Okay.
Because
so,
hold on, a lot of people believe if this goes back to the Stanley Kubrick filming this, that means that this is on a soundstage, and if there is no ring, people believe that the module was sat on stage, on the soundstage,
right.
and they didn't. And this is early. What is it? This is early 70s.
Yeah, it's
1969.
1969.
Right, early 70s. So people aren't thinking ahead of like, oh, people are going to analyze this footage. We don't have to put in
No, they're just
a
super
ring.
stoked about that somebody landed on the moon. That's all they. They
Okay.
were gullible
Right.
at the
So
time.
I understand what you're saying.
It had never been done before.
They're not pre-planning. They don't think they need to fabricate a crater.
Right.
Okay,
That is the skeptic view.
My prime argument for this is a lunar lander we're talking about. It's very small craft. It's coming down. The Saturn V rocket, the biggest rocket ever launched off Earth, did not cause a crater on Earth.
Okay.
It caused a little bit of dust to blow around, and there was a huge fiery explosion due to jet fuel burning, but there was no crater. Now you got to think, these astronauts that are in this lunar lander, they're coming down slow. They don't want to smash into the face of the Earth.
Right.
Now, things that cause craters, like meteors, are things that smash into the face of the Earth or smash into the face of the moon. That's why the moon is covered in craters. So, you think about it, the moon is just a really big rock. It's just a big chunk of rock.
Okay.
So, when something sits down softly on a rock, it's not going to leave a crater. Even if it's coming in at, 60, 70 miles an hour, still, it might leave a small chunk. Some stuff might break out.
But on
But
anything
when
we've
you think
seen
there'd
has
be an
nothing.
impact. Period.
Yeah,
There'd be
nothing is blown to where.
nothing.
Well, see, they landed in the Sea of Tranquility, which is an area on the moon which is believed used to be an ocean. Would no longer be an ocean, but it is now. Once the moon's atmosphere deteriorated, because it's believed the moon used to be a chunk of the Earth. A meteor collided with the Earth, caused the chunk to break off, which became the moon.
So my thing is, and I'm gonna say this: people come down onto the moon. Nothing happens whatsoever.
You're talking about moon dust. No moon dust.
No moon dust. No nothing.
See, there's no moon dust in the Sea of Tranquility. There's very little. That brings up another topic, though.
But my thing is, though, if we can land that solid in 1969 on the moon and not even bring up a single dust factor whatsoever, there's not going to be, and here we are 2015, there's nobody who has ever landed on the moon to make that smooth of a landing, to not even go near the moon.
There hasn't been
And
any reason to
I
go
totally understand that there are factions of we don't have the money to do it. But in 1969, people were trading in their crops for money left and right.
Right. People have always done that, though.
Right, so here we are. We can reproduce money left and right, and we are funding through our taxes constantly. But somebody from here has not been like, hey, I'm going to be that man. I'm going to be that man that goes on the moon, and I'm going to land it as smooth as Neil Armstrong.
I see what you're saying. There's about 150 billionaires in the United States. there are no trillionaires. Now, it takes trillions of dollars to fund a space program. Trillions. And
So how did we
NASA
do it
doesn't
in
have...
1969?
Well, it's the thing.
Money was different.
Money was different in 1969. You're not accounting for inflation. What's $1 trillion today may have been $1 billion in 1969.
But who produces our money? China or the U.S.?
Well,
U.S. produces
Well,
our
now,
money.
now you're getting
and,
into a different conspiracy about
that's-
money.
that's
Well, I mean,
And banks
we're
and
going
all
there,
this.
but, you know.
it's funded by the government, which is entirely funded by taxpayers. The thing is, NASA doesn't get the same funding that it used to. When the space race was on, NASA was getting a ton of funding
Well,
because
I wonder why.
it was important to Americans and the American
to the
population.
morale.
To the morale of everyone that we could beat the Russians to space, we could beat the Russians to the moon.
Because America. That's it.
Sort of,
America.
sure. But the thing is, the need to go to space and the need to go to the moon has not arisen in the last 20 years, and the money aspect of it has been a huge impact. NASA's not getting the same funding they used to, and we don't really need to go to the moon.
Yeah,
for
there's no
anything.
reason, unless
Okay,
we were
so
about
here's
to be
my
collided
thing.
with a meteor and we needed
Someone
another planet to
that
go to.
is a complete stranger to the world
Okay.
can hack into the system right now, and they can shut down 3/4 of everything that we ever wanted, which would be the stock market, the electricity, everything possible. If they wanted to, they could do it. But you're telling me
I don't believe that.
that someone who has
I think if
ultimate
someone,
availability cannot send a man onto the moon.
I think
Well,
if someone
anyone
could,
can send a
But
man
we,
to the moon.
but
is
we
what
have
we're trying to
sent.
talk about.
Well, we have sent robots. We have sent
For sure.
satellites out there. We have sent everything out there, and we can afford that. But you would think that a machine would be way more expensive than a human life to go out there. And they have landed, and they have
But it's a risk
they have
factor.
okay, no,
walked
that's
out-
not it. It is a risk factor, but that's not all it is. A machine is just that. It's a machine. It's not a human life. So if someone if
and
something
the risk factor. I
if
understand
something's
that.
complicated, but you got to think with a human, you're also paying to train the human. You're paying
To-
to
But
carry
how
their
much-
weight. Machines
How
are
trained was
infinitesimally
Neil
less.
Armstrong when he went out there? It was like,
But
hey,
you
you're
have to-
going on the moon, period.
It's also
How
more,
many other dimwits out there
It's
are you going
also
to say, hey,
more
you're going
weight
on the
for
moon?
food.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
there's more weight for food. There's
Water.
life support
But we
systems.
have
You don't
also
have to have a life
made
support
that
system
way
for
better,
a
though,
robot.
too. We have made the space food way easier to get in contact. I mean, us as humans can sit there and go and buy space food left and right.
Well, there's also the what's the word I'm looking for? The toughness factor. Let's call it a toughness factor. A human has to have a space shuttle. You have to send a human in a space shuttle. They cannot survive in space.
With
a robot,
oxygen, with-
you can just attach them to a rocket and shoot them off.
Right, but we were able to put a
And-
man on the moon and survive for even 30 seconds, but we have not even done that. And
It's because
let's-
it's expensive. Everything boils down to money and whether or not we need to. And we don't need to put men on the moon anymore.
So back to my point though, where's the crater? If there is supposed to be one, we got way off topic.
The crater. So the lunar lander sat down on the edge of the Sea of Tranquility,
Right.
which is believed to be an ocean.
Where
this,
an ocean used to once be.
Right. In this ocean, there is no moon dust. It's just an empty slab of rock.
The only thing that I could think of why there wouldn't be a ring was that gravity is different,
That's true.
so it would bring you down slower. Now, the famous one small step for mankind, blah blah blah. The original first step, they had to actually. It was a 4-foot drop from the module to the moon surface,
Right.
because the shock absorbers, they weren't being used like they assumed.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't come together. Yeah, they didn't close. They didn't actually absorb anything because the gravity was a different, I don't know, weight, I guess.
It's 1/6. The gravity on the moon is 1/6.
So they didn't have to. Let's just say they didn't have to use any of the shocks. So once they landed, would that have anything to do with there not being a crater? That the weight is different. They didn't have to have any kind of like.
Well,
Once they got to it and they were going towards it, they slowly just kind of went to it until they landed?
Sort of. So the mass is the same. The mass of the lunar lander, the mass of you, the mass of whatever. You take up the same amount of space. You are the same amount of matter. You have the same mass. But if you... The way you determine weight is mass times acceleration. That's force. Force is mass times acceleration, but force can be directly converted into weight.
Right.
Because it's the force of you on the Earth.
But in 1969, we were actually coming right out of the corner of the Depression of...
The Depression was 30 years before that.
And exactly, but we were doing that, and we came out of there, which in 30 years to some people is a lot, but to 30 years and some people coming out of Depression isn't that much. So in 30 years, we were able to turn around a Depression, we were able to turn around rationing and everything else, and then all of a sudden, poof, right out on top of the moon.
Well, it's after World War II. Everyone's morale is real high. To keep morale high, to keep everyone happy in the United States, we wanted to put a
backdrop on a TV.
Well,
and
we
we said, "Hey, look, we're on the moon.
That's not what they
Contribute your money."
Okay,
so
now
here's my second theory: is we have gone back to the moon. NASA has not said anything about it. We are waiting for another, in case Earth ever fails. They are looking past former life plan, and they can sit there and say that we're waiting for the funding to go past the constellation, but I feel like as if they are already doing it, because honestly, NASA and people with finding other forms of life, I feel like that's going to be one of the major fundings of the world, period. So I feel like they are already on the ball about it. So I feel like they have probably already touched the moon and probably gone way past that, but not told anybody, so that they can sit there and already had their findings before anybody else already knows.
Well, okay.
See, the thing about NASA is, back in the 60s, 1969, NASA was the American space company, basically. They were a company, they're National Aeronautics and Space Association, they're a government branch, but back then they were the only one in America. Now we have SpaceX, we have Elon Musk, we have all these different space-going companies. Like SpaceX is a privately owned company that they've had manned missions to space. They haven't taken any to the moon, but they've launched their own satellites.
Right.
Most cell phone companies launch through SpaceX or Elon Musk. Right. They don't use NASA because NASA's expensive. Because NASA is a government agency, and the government is charged way more for everything because they're the government and they can afford it.
Right.
Which is the same reason that, submarines are expensive.
What about the multiple light source? A lot of people claim that in pictures, videos of the original moon landing for Apollo 11, that there is multiple light sources.
So you're saying it would look like a set?
It would look like a set. It would look like you are hitting lights from different directions when there should only be one source, and that would be coming from the sun.
Okay, so I was really hoping you would bring this up. So you think that the one source of light would be from the sun?
Right.
What color is the face of the moon?
No one knows.
Whitish,
White,
grayish.
maybe. Yeah.
No one knows.
Well,
you can look outside and see it. It's whitish gray, for all we know.
But that's because it's being illuminated by the sun.
Sure. But what does light do?
Reflect.
It reflects. So you've got light bouncing off of the moon's face itself.
Right.
Light bouncing off of the astronauts in their white spacesuits.
Right.
Light bouncing off the Earth. Light bouncing off the lunar lander.
Well, and
so all these lights are being, it's all being reflected.
NASA's official statement says that it's due to the uneven landscapes on, that cause
that
the
could
waves.
also be it. There's craters.
Because it's uneven, and like you said, you're right. It's reflecting. It's like snow, right?
Yeah.
Snow reflects.
I would assume that the moon is a light gray color, which is close enough to white where it's reflecting a majority of the light that's hitting
your
it.
average rock.
Right.
Sure.
I never picked an average rock right out of the ground that was lightish gray. Maybe like red.
Well, that's because it's an earth
or
rock. We're
dark.
talking about moon rocks.
What about
Never had a moon rock.
people believe that the videos, if they were filmed in a soundstage, that the video footage was slowed down to make it appear that they have the
Gravitational.
that they're moving slower because the gravity's different. A lot of people say if you speed up the footage, I don't know, like 2.5 times or something. There's someone has done the math and has said, like, if you speed up the actual time of the footage from the moon landing to a certain speed, that it'll look like people just walking, and it looks just like a normal person in a big fluffy spacesuit.
My thing and what I will lead out of here with, and that's all I have to say about it all, is if you have the Earth and you're used to the Earth constantly, and then someone else shows you something different, which would be the moon, and they say, well, we have a gravitational pull, and you're going off of man's word, period, you have no clue whether to believe this or not. The best way to actually believe it would be for them to alter the view and
slow it down.
Everything about it. Which would mean, hey, I'm going to the moon, and there's a gravitational pull, so
it's got to be slower.
Yeah, it has to be slower. So here we are, we're going to, whether it be real or not, but even if it's just a backdrop, they knew what they were doing, and they're going to jump around, and they're going to
make it appear
that
there is something
right. And we all have seen
this.
We've seen it in videos, we've seen it in movies, we've seen everything. We can tell that from every movie that we've ever seen that was action-packed, that they can easily put them up on certain lines and make them look puppetized to where they can bounce and have that flow.
Some people think
and
that
then
there's
they're like, oh, well,
strings,
maybe
too.
Right. Oh, well, maybe that there's going to be a little bit of a gravitational pull.
Okay.
They thought about all this beforehand, but they didn't sit there and think, well, okay, you can think of all the statistics before you get there. So they have all the statistics of going to the moon, making it all these things, as in the flag might be looking like it's flying, or you may look like you're bouncing on the moon. So you can do all of what they're thinking about here on Earth behind a backdrop, whether it's a backdrop or anything, period. You can make it, you can always...
We get that, like, anything can look like a movie. We've seen it. We've watched the movies Armageddon. We've watched Lost in Space. We've watched any movie
Hold on. So, before I forget, the lines. I guess that's to make them look like they're floating.
The strings, basically.
So I don't know. I'm sure you've seen a lot of movies.
Older movies
from the late 60s, early 70s.
50s.
Yeah, 50s. Whatever. How many times in those movies did you see a stunt happen and you were like, I saw those lines?
Airplane.
I saw the lines. I saw the stunt double. I saw the person change. I saw their hair change, or I saw their...
Where it wasn't
the music video we watched the other day with Christopher Walken.
The Fat Boy Slim music video?
Yeah, it's totally not him doing the flips around.
Now, what I'm saying here is production quality in the late 60s wasn't exactly stellar.
But who say it
So I'm saying
wasn't
these lines...
as stellar as what we think it could be, because people can easily... Americans, no offense, but they are gullible.
Oh, I know.
And if you sit there and you say, hey, well, this is how it should be, but really and truthfully, these other 10 people over here on this line are way more improved, or way more technological.
But that's what I'm saying. I think Americans...
They can do so much more and come back to the other 50 million people that are like, yeah, we believe it. We understand it. We got it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think Americans are easily just
Takes one smart guy to move the world.
Americans are easily just as gullible in one direction as they are in the other. So we're just as likely to believe something that's false as we are to disbelieve something that's true. Like saying the moon landing is a hoax.
It's easy for
someone to say it's a hoax because they don't know.
And they can connect these dots. That's what all this is about, is you can connect dots to any kind of conspiracy that aren't really there. But people swear up and down that the slow motion part of this is that if you speed it up, it looks like someone just walking.
Right.
So why...
So how do they know this?
Because they sped it up.
I thought the footage
Because
was gone.
one more smart
Well,
guy
I mean, there's
who was
footage.
doing black and
Okay,
white
so
filming at the time was
there's
like,
footage
hey, I
from-
can broadcast
There's
this.
footage from TVs.
Right.
I don't know about how the technology was in the 60s, but I'm pretty sure I couldn't fast forward. Nobody could fast forward a TV in the 60s.
But you could easily slow down the footage.
Right, and where
It's
there's
editing.
one guy who can do this, there's another guy who can do 20 million times more than this guy can do.
And this all goes back to the slow motion. It goes back to being that Stanley Kubrick is involved in it. That he was part of the editing. He was part of the set design. He was part of it all because of his movie.
Was this achievable though in the 60s?
Yes.
Could
why
you
not?
make slow motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
why not?
I will say this.
They used to speed up movies.
Not
they used to
long
slow motion
ago,
stuff.
I showed Toby a video. And what was it? It was a guy who was sponsored by Red Bull who was able to break the barrier of the earth.
The sound barrier.
Red Bull, who provides drinks to
His
people.
name is Felix.
Right.
Yeah, the
Felix.
guy who dove from the stratosphere.
Felix can break the sound barrier, and we have enough money sponsored by people buying this drink
So you think
to break the sound barrier, but we don't have enough people to invest into wanting to go to the moon.
What's
See,
on the
you just
moon?
keep going back to the point
What's on
of
the
why
moon?
haven't people gone back to the moon? We're trying to figure out if the moon
The
landing
reason
is real.
people haven't gone back
The
to
first
the moon,
one.
I don't
the,
think it's
the
real.
definite reason that people
There you
haven't
go. We're back. We're back. I don't think it's real.
What about okay, DJ?
the definite reason that people haven't gone back to the moon is that there's no need. to go
Right,
back to
right,
the
and
moon.
I can
And
see that.
money on top of that is a factor, but we don't have a reason to go back to the
But
moon.
if everybody here on
There's
Earth is
nothing
crying
there.
out that we're running out of resources and we need
The
we're
moon
going to
doesn't
need
have
more
any-
room and we're going to need this and that, then you would think that they need to go and find other places.
Well,
which
first
would,
off, that won't be an issue
You
for
go to the
at
closest
least another
place.
1,000 years.
Right,
That won't be a problem for another 1,000 years.
but
There are currently warp drives in development. NASA's developing a warp drive. I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually true. It works by actually constricting the space in front of the vessel and expanding it behind, so it kind of surfs like a wave. But
more back to the moon landing.
the moon, there's no resources on the moon.
the
It's
original
a big
moon
empty
landings.
rock.
When we're trying to beat the Soviets, what about the evidence of the lack of stars from any footage?
The lack of stars. Okay, so the moon's surface reflects light. It's a big, grayish white ball.
Right,
It's really bright.
right.
These are terrible chest-mounted cameras. That's what they were. They were mounted on the astronauts' chests, which is why you can always see one astronaut, but you can never see two at the same time,
Right.
unless it's in a helmet reflection.
Right.
So there are these chest-mounted cameras that are in 1969 on the moon, where it's extremely bright, and these cameras,
They're just not picking them up
they're
because
just not.
of how bright what they are getting.
They're not top of the line cameras. They have poor exposure.
But they are high definition for whatever the time period is.
Sure.
they're pretty high definition if you can look at one astronaut and catch another astronaut in
So
the face.
okay, so I'll throw another thing in here that'll make you guys think a little bit. If it was faked, if it was in a basement, don't you think NASA would have thought to put stars on the backdrop?
I don't know.
No.
Did they think that people were going to be analyzing the footage 25 years later, 30 years
Well,
later?
Of course they did.
I don't think so because no matter what, we always fall back on there is human error, and human error cannot be fixed.
Well, okay.
If NASA was going to have a blunder, it would have been something a little more in-depth than not
did.
putting stars on the backdrop.
A waving flag.
NASA's official statement on why the stars are not visible in pictures is the quality of the pictures wash them out. With the high quality pictures, even like DJ's saying, the stars are going to be, I guess, not as bright because of the reflection from the moon's surface.
If you could go outside and take a picture of lightning as it strikes the Earth, being as bright as it is, and it's middle of the night, say it's a clear night, but for some reason there's lightning striking, and you take a picture of the exact moment lightning strikes the Earth, so you see a bright bolt through the middle of your frame, you would not see any stars, even if it's a completely clear night, because of the exposure on the camera.
Right. depending on how the
It's
exposure...
the same thing with the surface of the moon. The surface of the moon is so bright.
Right, that's why you would have to adjust exposures on any kind of camera that we have nowadays to catch different lighting. And
Exactly.
What about the layered crosshairs? Some people suggest that the crosshairs, the little T that's in the middle of the pictures that show the center of the picture, some people believe that the crosshairs are in front of the image in some photos, and then in other photos it's behind it. So like it's
You
different.
See that first.
So it looks like it was edited in afterwards. I mean, it's just something that people believe. Is there any reason that you can think of that the crosshairs are sometimes in front of or behind the object? Because they should always be at the very forefront of the picture.
Well, the best reason I can think of for this, and this is coming entirely from my own brain and not from any kind of research at all. There are two astronauts that leave the shuttle on every Apollo mission. And they're both taking a multitude of pictures.
Right.
And they don't have any way to differentiate who took what picture.
But
Other than the location of their crosshairs.
But the crosshairs are sometimes in front of the object and then sometimes behind it to where it looks like, I don't know, like it was edited funny or something.
In front or behind of an object.
Like say if you were taking a picture of this microphone,
It's in front of it.
it'd be
Here's
like
the crosshairs in front of it, you're looking at it, and now it's behind it.
Okay,
I know
that's
no
all
one
right.
can see what I'm talking about, but the crosshairs are in front of
The
it.
focal point is behind the object that it's supposed to be focusing on.
And which is could be a weird editing error, could be a weird mistake on photography side. I mean, I don't know enough about photography to really say.
Yeah, I'm not an
I mean,
photography
it could
expert.
just be a double exposure of some sort. Again, don't know enough about photography to really comment on it. But it could be a who knows. What about the Van Allen radiation belt? Have you heard of this?
I have heard of the Van Allen radiation belt.
It
You would
has,
think that the astronauts would go through this belt and they would die.
that's what the popular belief is that the radiation from the Van Allen radiation belt is that you would be cooked going through it
Right.
immediately, cooked, just fried like a microwave.
Right. So I actually happen to be pretty good at this whole radiation thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the Van Allen radiation belt consists of mostly gamma radiation.
The Hulk.
No.
The Hulk is
Sun.
gamma radiation.
No.
sun.
Gamma radiation is high energy gamma particles, or also known as photons, light waves.
Hulk
Waves.
smash.
Okay. Seriously.
Comic
though,
book terms.
the
Cosmic rays are
the
fantastic.
craft
for-
that these astronauts were in. First off, they were moving very fast,
Right.
about 17,000 miles per hour.
Okay.
That's what you have to be at to escape. It's the escape velocity for the Earth. So they're moving very quickly, and they're surrounded by aluminum.
Right.
Aluminum is a fantastic material
To
because
reflect off.
because it's very light. So gammas, they're light particles, but you don't see them like you see light. So there's different it's a spectrum, right? So there's infrared,
Okay.
and then there's visible light, so like red, green, blue, orange, Roy G. Biff,
Yeah.
that. And then there's ultraviolet, and then from there it goes radio, and then higher, and eventually you get to gamma. Gamma's the highest energy. You don't actually see it.
Right.
It's moving so fast. There's gamma particles moving through you and me right now. The sun emits gamma. It's what gives you sunburn.
Right. But this.
What I'm saying is, aluminum is fantastic not for reflecting, but for attenuating. Basically, it takes these gammas, and these gammas bounce off of aluminum atoms, like microscopic particle interactions, where these gammas are bouncing off of these atoms and losing energy, kind of the way a pool ball works. You
Right.
throw a pool ball at another ball, it stops. the ball moves, but
The original ball
the
stops.
original ball stops. It's the same way, except it doesn't exactly stop. It just bounces and ricochets and all kinds of stuff. And what happens is this gamma eventually loses enough energy to where it becomes just a normal light particle.
Well,
So they are not only are they moving incredibly fast through this Van Allen, right?
Van Allen radiation belt.
Van Allen radiation belt. Not only are they moving incredibly quickly through this belt, they're also surrounded by shielding.
Do you want to hear what NASA's statement is?
Sure.
NASA believes it wouldn't take that long to pass through this radiation belt. That you would spend such a little amount of time going through it that it would cause literally little to no harm.
Right.
So
You will more likely pick up more radiation on a nice day at the beach than you would in the Van Allen radiation belt.
right.
Going at the speeds you would be going.
Especially at 17,000 miles per hour. Did you drink all my drink? Did I drink all my drink?
I think you drink all you drink.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we were still recording.
Oh, that's fine. I'll edit that out. The very last point that I have to bring up is the duplicate backgrounds. There's 2 pictures from the Apollo 15 mission that have the exact same background. Even though NASA says that the 2 pictures were taken from miles apart, the background is completely the same. You can lay the 2 images on top of each other and it is the exact same background. Now, again, this is the Apollo 15. It's not the 11. It's not the original mission. It's the 15. But you can lay the 2 images on the back. The one image shows the module that is sitting there. The second image shows no module, but the exact same background. They did not pick up the module, move it, and take a picture of the same background. And the foreground, the ground looks different. You can literally lay one on top of the other with a transparency and see that it is almost identical with the background.
Okay, so my thing is, before we even get into anything else, is we had more funds back then.
You're going back to the funds.
Yes, but listen. This is to try to debunk it, because if we had more funds back then, things were more valuable to everybody. So if I was Neil Armstrong and someone approached me and said, hey, I'll give you $2 million to say you landed on the moon, you did this, take a couple pictures, sit in front of a backdrop, will you take it? I'm like, heck yeah. I have a family to raise. $2 million or even $1 million.
That
wouldn't play.
That wouldn't play on your conscience. You are lying to the United States, to every person that's ever had a dream, to the entire world, not just the United States.
You're thinking versus living versus people who
You can live with
it's survival.
$2 million
Yeah.
rather than knowing that you have lied to the entire world and that you're a big fat phony.
Because when he was on the moon in 1969, he was probably about 30 years old. Or maybe even 40. So by the time it hit now, to where everybody is debunking it, he's had enough time to die. Or he thought he may have died. So he
But
is
wouldn't
not
he
going to
come
have
out
to
right
confront
now?
it.
Wouldn't he come out right now and be
No.
like, listen, I
Neil Armstrong
lied.
is dead.
Do what?
No.
Neil Armstrong is dead.
So
Is
see,
So it's Tupac.
if he's dead,
Tupac's not dead.
he has no worries in the world. And not only on that, but even if he was still alive to this day, all they have to do is offer him another $1 million, which we have that in our
So you
funds.
think that the government would keep funding?
If you can pay,
if you're
and
alive,
this is exactly what I told DJ earlier. If you can pay off a sports team, you can pay off an astronaut.
See, that's
It
the
doesn't
thing,
matter who you are, what you are. If there is money involved and there's enough of it to know that you're going to support your family, no matter what, you'll take it, and you'll do everything that needs to be done behind it.
right? But what about this factoid actually supports your supporting that the moon landing is a hoax. the fact,
Absolutely.
right? That the two pictures overlay. DJ, I mean, could you
I have nothing
for that?
for that.
Do you think
All I can
do you,
think
do you
of,
think that some pictures could be fabricated just to?
Sure, for propaganda purposes, sure. Now, I do have
Considering that they are all
I have
lost and now they're having to
Well, this is part of the
redigitize
15.
them all.
I think this. Hold on, let me look again.
I do have a point to bring
It
up
was
about
15.
this topic, though. If I were to go
Yeah.
to,
Apollo 15.
if I were to go stand on the edge of the Red River
Right.
and take a picture of the Red River, and then go stand on the edge of the Nile River, and take a picture of that river, or say the Mississippi and the Nile, both very large rivers.
Right.
You think you could tell the difference?
No, but if I could lay the pictures on top of each other and be like, hey, that's kind of fishy that both of these look exactly the same. We're going to take a small break and then we'll come back with our conclusions on what we believe. Okay, so we're back. And I think it's time for us all to decide, is this fact? Is this fiction? Is this a hoax? Is this real? Is this fake?
Air quotation marks, exclamation mark, question mark.
Yes, it's lots of excitement. Who wants to start? What's your opinion? Daryl? DJ?
Two fish.
I'd rather go last, actually.
You want to go last?
Yeah.
Kristen?
I think it's hoax.
You've been pretty strong on the hoax wagon this whole time.
Yes.
You're a non-believer of the
Absolutely.
moon landing?
It is definitely.
We did not
unbelief.
reach the moon, is what you're saying. We
We have made many accommodations in this world to lots of debt. And we have made many accommodations to bringing in certain things to do when it comes to with the world and everything. And if all it takes is for us to go to the moon, and that's like a small step for mankind. So that's all it takes. It's a hoax. No one's landed on the moon. If they had,
Ever.
Ever.
Out of the 6 missions.
Period.
Okay?
If they had, then they would have already done it again. We have been there. Let's see what it,
You would think
it'd
that
be
Red Bull would have sponsored a moon landing to
45
put
years. 45 years we're sitting on. Yeah.
McDonald's would have a flag up there saying
Absolutely.
McDonald's, the first fast food to put a flag
Absolutely.
on the moon.
Red Bull pushed themselves right out and hit the barrier, going down, and nothing. We had the funding for Red Bull, a drink that we drink every day, had the funding for that, but no one else has had the funding to come up with, yeah, we're gonna prove the man walked on the moon
So you're
and have a live broadcast again like they wanted to in the beginning.
you stand behind that there was no funding, or there's no funding now, so we would
Absolutely
keep funding
not.
it.
And we, air quote, misplaced the tapes to prove that we ever had the first landing on the moon.
Okay, Mr. Cade, what is your belief on the moon landing?
To be honest with you, if I had a belief, I don't think I have enough legitimate, hard evidence facts to say whether or not it is true or not. But in my honest opinion, I'd say it probably happened. Just because why go through all the trouble? Maybe it's
To
just
fake
my,
it?
maybe it's just my personality. I don't think
Same
it is
reason
worth
why
it to
they-
go all the trouble just to outbeat some Russians.
If you were a sports fan, you would totally understand why they go
I'm a
out
sports
of their
fan. I
way.
like skateboarding. I'm a skateboarding
So
fan.
the risk
I can't
would
even say it.
there's not enough reason to risk faking it, is what you're saying. Like
It's
we
not-
legitimately
it's not
had to
that
have
there was
landed.
enough risk. It was just like, why go
What
through
has
the
this
trouble
country
because
ever
it's
been
probably
but
pretty
nothing
possible. It's like,
but a reason to give other Americans hope that there is something else out there besides what we live on now to save their asses. That is all it's ever been.
there's more than just Americans on this planet. I think.
Are you sure?
Hold
Are
on.
you sure?
I don't think it should
No,
be just an
America.
American thing. I think it should be like a
Anybody.
humanity thing.
Anybody.
Landing on the moon.
Humanity,
You know what I
period.
mean?
Yeah.
Humanity, period. Okay, let me back
It
it
is-
up. Humanity, period.
I mean,
Well, that makes a good point, though. It is weird that
We flung the American flag on
Country-
there?
Countries haven't come together and say, hey, let's all dump a little money into this space program, not NASA, not anything, a united space program to...
What if John F. Kennedy
I don't
was
know.
like, this will really boost
Any
my
opinion on that?
plan?
No.
It was not. It was John F. Kennedy.
No,
What if
it's
he
better
was
than
like,
Nixon
hey,
administration.
this will really look good on a
Okay,
presidential
so it's
election. Let's
time
say
for
we
my-
went to the moon.
It's time for my
Boom.
closing.
Well, let me.
Shot.
I'm undecided about it. There's so many facts that point that it's true. There's so many facts that point to it's false. There's so many facts that point that all the there's a lot of facts that make it seem real. There's a lot of facts that make it seem false. There's a lot of facts that contradict each other. So it's hard for me to make a solid conclusion to if it's a hoax or if it's true. I would think that it would be a burden to carry for a astronaut to sit there for 40 some odd years to say, yes, this is real, and lie to the entire world.
But how many other things has the United States... I get it that it's for the whole entire world, but how many other things has the United States lied to you about and sat there and said...
And that's a good point. That's a good point. But it just seems like on a single person, that seems like a lot of a burden.
If you're gullible, you're gullible. And guess what? 9/10 of the time, there's going to be a gullible person there to sit there and spread the word and say this happened. And yes, they did put it on live television. But in all honesty, from 1969 till now, we have seen the same live thing that when the television broadcast went out, we all saw the with the American flag that said that we were ending broadcasting. If they can do that, then they can sit there and definitely put some man on the moon, air quotations, and make us think that he's standing there.
DJ, what's your closing?
My closing. All right. So, my closing takes something that's not the moon. International Space Station. Something that was launched from Earth that there is 24-hour surveillance of astronauts on. So, we launched a space station in pieces, put it together in space, and now there are people living inside of it 24/7.
Okay, but
Now, if these guys, if these guys can get and land on the International Space Station, which wasn't there, it was built in space, what's to say they couldn't get to the moon? Because the moon's already there. We didn't even have to build it. It's there. It's just chilling.
Exactly.
No.
But I will say this, even if they were to fly up into the air right now and land somewhere else, no one would have known about it because they're so gullible. We just lost a whole entire airplane, which is a whole entire other conspiracy. But we
shuttle.
lost a whole... No, we lost the airplane, and they just now found a part of it.
Oh, you're talking about the Malaysia.
One, yeah, the ads
Right.
on the news.
So if they just now found a piece of it, period. If we can lose a whole entire airplane, you don't think that we can lose a whole entire space shuttle landing in someone else's point of view? Like, they are gullible. They are looking. They don't know where it's going to land. For all they know, it could land in 2 states over, and someone else could have fucking been like,
I
yeah,
think
sure, here
I
it
think
is.
the gullible.
Don't tell anybody. Shh.
I think the gullible ones, the people that are the most gullible, are these 20% of the Americans that believe this is a hoax.
You know what the gullible is? Congress. They're gullible.
Entirely unrelated, but I think the people that hear this conspiracy theory from someone and they immediately jump on board and believe this conspiracy is
The most gullible.
Just because of the
those,
facts.
I think those are the gullible people.
When you start bringing up the radiation belt, the pictures that look like they're fake,
Where these came from? These are people looking for a loophole.
connecting dots that aren't there. Possibly this is all speculation.
The
So
people who are the most gullible are the people who are the ones who are tricking the people going, I could fall for that. And then, poof, There they go. They fall for it.
Well,
Moon landing is dumb. It never happened. It will never happen unless they finally pull me a fucking chunk of rock right out of the fucking center of the core. I'm done. Period.
Well, it seems that 25% of us believe that it was fake, 50% of us are undecided, and 25% of
50% of us.
me and Cade are undecided.
I told you I thought it was real.
Oh, it's real? Well,
50-50.
25 says that it's fake, 50 says that it's real, and 25 says undecided. So,
majority rules.
Jordy rules. The moon landing never happened.
all right, that is our show. Thank you. Stick around for Kids Explain Everything.
Kids explain everything.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kids Explain Everything. I'm with my little brother.
Colton.
How old are you, Colton?
I am 12 years old.
Tell me what you know about aliens.
The things I know about aliens are they're little tiny, well, from the perspective of movies, they're actually little tiny green men and little bitty UFOs saying, "Take me to your later."
What does UFO stand for?
Unidentified flying object.
Okay.
My perspective of it is that, well, they're just a natural being that has evolved way more than we have, and they just can't find their way around, and they're just traveling through the galaxy.
So where do they come from?
I mean, I think I'll ask when the next time I see them. I mean, I really don't know, actually.
But they're not from Earth.
Got that right.
And you believe they're green?
Well, not always. They can be any color.
Describe a typical alien for me.
Well, from how many movies I've watched and just them putting myself together and all of that, I'd have to say they have big tails. They're blackish with green stripes. Let's see. They've got green ears that are like kind of bat ears, but like they're more crinkly and on the side of their head. I'd have to say they have little spooky things that come on their head, some like predator thingies.
This is a crazy alien that I've never heard of.
Well, we're about to hear of it now. And it's got little bitty like fingers that like are kind of like claws on its back or whatever. And you've got 3 fingers and a spacesuit, I guess.
Interesting. What do you think aliens eat?
People.
Okay.
And maybe some, I think they eat little, like this soup where like the stuff is in it. I don't know.
They eat soup.
Yeah, like with little aliens, the other little aliens in them. Maybe even worms.
What about probing?
Oh, God.
Why do aliens probe people?
I don't even know what that means.
Come on now.
Does it mean they're like taking them or something?
Why do aliens abduct people?
Get more smarter?
Get more.
Well, I mean, what other reason would they?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You tell me. Why do aliens abduct people and kidnap them?
I guess to learn about our kind, I guess. Like to learn about what we're doing and stuff, I guess.
If aliens are so advanced, why haven't they just come and attacked us like Independence Day and taken over our world?
Because I think they have like something special planned. Like not just like, pew pew, we're going to eat you now. It's like, I think it's like they're going to like just like secretly come in and take us like by surprise.
Are they going to enslave us?
I guess they probably could.
So are they real? Do you believe in them?
Yes, I will never stop not believing. I mean, but whatever. You get what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I sure do. You're always going to believe in aliens.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that wraps it up about aliens. You want to say bye?
Mine. Kids explain everything.
Thank you for listening to our show. If you have any questions about anything, please send us an email at secrettransmission@hotmail.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter and find out when we post our new shows at secrettranspod. That's at secrettranspod. Don't forget, all of our episodes are also available on YouTube. Just search for Secret Transmission Podcast and subscribe. Or you can just listen to us on SoundCloud. Please come back and listen to us try to explain the unexplainable.
Ready to say goodbye, Roger.